Mayor Baldwin.
Yes, in terms of council protocol, I just want to comment that we do now have somewhere between 7 and 10 ad hoc subcommittees, and in a way that can be an inhibiting factor because of the Brown Act, that because we have so many of these subjects wound up in subcommittees, it means that a third member cannot talk to that another member of that subcommittee on that topic. And so I'm curious, I wonder if at some point, after all the crises go away, and we can afford a little time to discuss this, that we in the meantime wonder about, are we inhibiting our ability to communicate with one another by creating so many darn subcommittees?
I'm not sure we'd be able to talk to each other anyway. You know, that if on a subject that, you know, that even if the subcommittees didn't exist.
Well, if the subcommittees didn't exist, and I had a flash, an idea, and I wasn't aware that you or Benj had already talked to another person about it, I could call you up and ask you about it. But now the more subjects we get into these subcommittees, we're sort of frozen out in a way from any advanced discussion.
I do recognize that we're coming into the zone of where this is getting a little bit awkward for all of us. I hope as part of the 9-10 budget process, perhaps we can more formalize some of our committees going forward. And it is, again, once we get through a few of these things. This one has landed because somebody else changed a date, and now they've decided this is urgently important. And it is important to this community about what happens with that. So I hear you, and I think that we do need to move towards a little greater workability on how many different topics we're all trying to juggle.
Thank you. That's 11C has been taken care of. Moving on to item 11D, consideration and possible introduction of city sewer ordinance amending sections and updating references to building and related codes in various sections. City Attorney, report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. This is an ordinance in sort of two parts. The first part, which is section 1 in the ordinance, addresses a concern that's been raised by county council on behalf of the sanitation district that a recent amendment to the city code, it's section 3798A, which was part of the grease interceptor ordinance, contained a sentence which says that in those parts of the city that are within the boundaries of the sanitation district, the city ordinance, the city grease interceptor ordinance would prevail over the sanitation district interceptor ordinance. And they objected to the city ordinance purporting to make their grease interceptor ordinance inapplicable to properties that are within the sanitation district. And I thought that was an objection that's right, that the city can't do that and shouldn't do that. It is something that could be negotiated between the city and the sanitation district, you know, whether one ordinance should apply in those area in that area, but it would have to be, if that were to occur, it would have to be by agreement between the city and the sanitation district. So until there is an agreement like that, I'm proposing that we amend the ordinance to remove that sentence to avoid that that conflict. And then the other part, section 2 of the ordinance, is just making some technical updating to certain sections of the code that make reference to uniform codes, uniform building code, plumbing code, et cetera. The state now adopts California codes, which are based on the uniform codes, but do differ from the provisions in the uniform code. And now the correct reference is the California codes, California building code, and so on. So some of these outdated references were identified by Sterling codifiers, which keeps the city code.
What kind of codifiers?
Sterling, like sterling silver. It's the name of the company that maintains the city code. When you go on the city website and you click on city code, you actually go on to their website. Yeah. No, it's not an adjective.
Coleman said, is that what you said? Not as good as Wade.
Anyway, so the other part of the ordinance is just updating those references. And as it happens, one of those outdated references is actually in a section in the sewer ordinance, so that also is being changed. And then because they're in the original sewer ordinance, which was adopted, the most recent version of the original sewer ordinance that was adopted in 1985, there is already a section that deals with grease interceptors. I'm proposing a change to make it clear that that section is not in conflict with the newly enacted grease interceptor ordinance. So those are the changes, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about them.
Councilmember Landis.
No, it's a mistake. Sorry.
So what we were going, if the council's interested here, is the first motion would be to introduce the ordinance by title only.
That's correct.
But what you're suggesting is that we need to make a change in the ordinance
No, I'm
as
not.
written.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. The
I-
change that you felt necessary to be made is already incorporated in
Yes.
the ordinance.
What I was describing, what I was trying to describe was what the ordinance does.
Okay, got it.
Yes.
I might have missed this in your report, I'm sorry if I did, but I thought that we had tried to do something to make this grease interceptor ordinance for the city consistent with that of the district, and what
It is.
happened with that?
No, they are consistent. They're virtually identical.
So all we're
but
doing is just removing any
their-
reference?
their concern, yeah, but their concern is if their ordinance is being enforced against the property owner, under both ordinances, there is a right of appeal if you disagree with a determination by the staff that are enforcing the ordinance. And if you are appealing under their ordinance, you'd go to the Sanitation District Board of Directors. If you appealed under the city ordinance, you'd be coming to the city council. So that's what I think the Sanitation District's concern was, that if all appeals were to the city council, they were sort of being ousted of the right to review decisions involving the enforcement of their ordinance. So, and as I said, I think it might make sense to have one ordinance be enforceable in those areas that are inside the city. But unless we detach the sanitation district property from the sanitation district or have an agreement with them, I don't think we can unilaterally do that in our ordinance.
Is there a motion?
I would move to introduce the, by title, the ordinance by title only.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Landis.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Roden.
Yes.
Mayor Baldwin.
Yes. Is there a second motion that will introduce the ordinance?
Oh, first it has to be read. Did she read it?
You have to read,
Yeah.
oh, please read the ordinance, title.
Read the whole ordinance.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Ukiah amending sections 3798A, 3704.2, 3706.7, 3000, 8336, 9150, subsections B and J, 9277 subsection B, 9278, and 9543 subsection A of the Ukiah City Code.
Now, we need a motion to introduce the ordinance.
I'll make a motion to introduce the ordinance by title.
No.
I don't have to say that.
I'll show you.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
See, this is the,
Councilmember Landis.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Roden.
yes.
Mayor Baldwin.
Yes. Moving on to item 11E, consideration and possible approval of total